So I made it through my part. Hopefully I can make it through this part too. These are her words. When we got married, people predicted that it would not last because we were so opposite. Someone mentioned it to my mother and she told them, Beverly sees something in Jim and they will make it work. Well, this past June, we celebrated 51 years of friendship and 49 years of marriage. Who was this man called Jim Couls? Ask his sister Marge. She and his sisters have known Jim since he was a baby, as he was the youngest of 5 children. From the stories I've heard, he had a lot of Dennis the Menace in him, always getting into some kind of mischief. Ask his family about his Navy days. He would tell us many stories, and Dennis the Menace was apparently still lurking in that young sailor. One of his commanders said, Jim, you make a great sailor, but when you're on a leave, well, that's another story. Recently, a veteran asked Jim how he felt about his time in the Navy. Without hesitation, Jim said, I loved it. If you ask his son, Jim's son is also named Jim, call him Bird, a nickname Jim gave him when he was born. Bird said his dad liked to tell the story of taking him and the Russian wolfhound quail hunting. Bird, being a young guy, would get tired of quail hunting, so Jim would send him and the wolfhound back to the car, and they'd meet up again when Jim was done quail hunting. Jim taught Bird to golf, a sport he dearly loved, and they enjoyed many rounds together over the years. Ask his work buddies here today. Jim was a hard worker, no matter where he was employed, and many of the cards and Facebook comments that have come in had said that he was a good man. He became close friends with several of his buddies as they all loved fishing, hunting, and camping with their families. If they were working on a project at their home, Jim would be right there to lend a helping hand and support. Ask his nieces and nephews. He loved each of them, and they loved him. Many of them would visit or call just to find out how Uncle Jim was doing. And according to the sweatshirt that you may have saw on the pictures, he was the coolest uncle in the world. Each of them had their own funny memory or touching story of Uncle Jim. A special one was when Jim came home on leave from the Navy, and he met his niece Sherry for the first time, who was 2 years old. He asked if he could take her for an ice cream cone. So off they went. Him had her little hand in his, and they went all the way to the store, holding hands, all the way back, holding hands. Ask my girlfriends. One of them would come through the door, and he'd give them a big smile and a big Jim Bear hug and say, "Hi, sweetheart. You're sure looking good." And they loved it. Ask his golf buddies. Now I know that what is said on the golf course should stay on the golf course. What I can say is there was a lot of good-natured ribbing going on, and the word hacker comes to mind quite often. Ask our neighbors in the villages. Jim is a very friendly guy, so we quickly made friends with all of our neighbors. And there again, he was ready and willing to help out whenever someone needed it. There was even a bit of competition with 2 of our neighbors as to who had bluebirds nesting in their nesting box. You see, Jim loved watching birds and other wildlife in the backyard. If pets could talk, they would say that Jim loved them dearly and gave them a good life. He had a very tender spot for animals, from his first dog, Tippy, to his last dog, Joey, and all the many dogs and cats in between. Many years ago, he went deer hunting, and he shot the deer with his bow. Later, he said, "I'll never do that again. I'll go out, I'll sit in the blind, but not shoot one. And he never did. Although one did come into his blind to check him out, see what he was doing. Jim thought that was pretty neat. Ask me who he was. Again, this is in Beverly's words. Jim was my best friend and the love of my life. When I first met Jim, the thing that stuck out in my mind was the way he talked about his 4 sisters with such fondness and love. You see, Jim looked tough, but he had a soft side. He would tell me stories about growing up, years with his sisters, and about the important role they played in his life. That love continued right up to his passing. That thing I saw him in Jim the first time I met him was love. Life was never dull with Jim. He was interested in so many things and always encouraged me to join him in those interests, which I did. I loved our adventures and the places and the people we met while traveling in our RV. Some of our dearest friends were made while RVing, from our 2nd year of marriage to just a few years ago. What did Jim say about himself? He had a lot of time to reflect on our life together this past 2 years. He said to me, I'm 86, I've had a good life, I've done all the things I wanted to do, even to riding in a 1931 Ford Coupe street rod in June, which was on his bucket list. I had a wonderful, caring family and great friends. When asked if he was at peace with God, he answered with a strong yes. There's an old George Burns song called Old Bones that our niece Donna and I heard not too long ago. When I asked her who it reminded her of, she said, Uncle Jim. The chorus goes like this. I was thinking about doing a George Burns impression and bringing out my cigar, but I love life. I'd like to do it again, though I might not be much more than I've ever been. Just to have the chance to turn back the hands and let my life begin. Oh yeah, I'd like to do it again. You've all heard the old song, You Are My Sunshine, but when Jim turned his smile on you, it was like sunshine. His light has gone out, but we are still basking in that sunshine warmth. Jim loved his family, his many friends, and his beloved pets. Do we love them? You betcha.